name is Dan Roshan. I'm with Get Rock Solid Coaching and the Greetings Virginia Real Estate Sales Team. Today, I'm really, really psyched to have a very special guest with us, Mr. Aaron Kaufman. Hello, Aaron.
Hey, how's it going, man? Good to see you.
Oh, man, it's great to see you. So before we really dive in to learn a little bit more about Aaron and his journey and things that have worked for him, things that haven't worked, and lessons learned along the way, I want to share with you. I had a friend of mine just yesterday ask me, "Hey, Dan, why are you even doing these videos? Why do you do this every single week?" And the reason why we're doing this is really to be able to help the real estate agent community to be able to succeed at a higher level, to be able to learn from those that have gone before us, that have, really sucked at it and failed at it, and hopefully allow for you to not have that same experience. And, that's why we're doing this today. So with that, Mr. Aaron, tell us who you are.
Aaron Kaufman, self-titled Keller Williams growth coach. I guess you call myself a stakeholder evangelist at KW and a talent attractor. That's my role, man. I haven't sold a house since 2005, and have kind of created my own business within Keller Williams. And, I'm living a life by design, man, which is great.
That evangelist thing, you just came up with that just now, right?
Yeah, why not? Why not? Sure. Absolutely.
All right. I love it, man. I love it. So, so you haven't sold a house since 2005.
Yeah. All
right.
So, Dan, my story is natural born salesman who always hated selling. And I think one of the biggest problems I faced in life was I never found a product or service that I was passionate about. And I was attracted to corporate sales jobs, promises of making tons of money. And I go to these sales jobs and I start to realize that, if I'm not inspired by what I'm doing, if I don't believe in the product or service that I'm selling, ultimately, it doesn't really matter how much money I could make. I'm not going to be successful. And so for years and years, I bounced around from sales job to sales job, never stuck around long enough in a sales job to build up any kind of momentum. And I found myself 31 years old, entrepreneur with potential, which is, not the greatest place in the world to be. I mean, at 31, it's like, you kind of are what you are. But I kind of had an epiphany, which was, really, I'm the poster boy for ADD. Let me just say that. All right. And there's a book that, there's a title of a book I'll never write because I'm ADD. But the title of that book is All or Nothing, the ADDer's Guide to the Universe. And so the big shift for me, Dan, was when I realized that I had to find something I believed in. And I think that's what attracted me initially into a residential real estate career, right? Because in residential real estate, the agent is the product. And I hope everybody who's listening today agrees with that, buyers and sellers hire you because of you. And really, ultimately, they could care less whether you're at Keller Williams, Coldwell Banker, or Remax, or any of these other companies, right? So when you're committed to being a great agent and you operate with a high level of integrity, you've got great customer service, great communication skills, there should be a sense of being genuine in what you're selling, right, Dan? I mean, when a buyer or seller would be lucky to work with you because you're a great agent, that should be a powerful feeling. So that's what brought me into real estate, was the idea that, hey, I'm going to be the product in this industry. I joined a small boutique company here in Atlanta. They were bought by Coldwell Banker, became a Coldwell Banker agent, sold with them for a couple of years, made my way over to Keller Williams. And honestly, Dan, the pivot point for me was when I realized I believed more in Keller Williams as a product and as a wealth building opportunity than I ever did as myself as a real estate agent. So when I had that epiphany, I went all in. I stopped selling real estate. I made my purpose growing KW. And look, it hasn't been an easy ride, but that's all behind me, man. And, I don't know a lot of people that can work their tail off for 15 years and potentially be on the verge of not having to work again. So I'm blessed. When you're in the journey and people say, enjoy the journey, you're like, yeah, go jump off a cliff, right? But honestly, the journey, looking back and also looking forward, because I'm certainly not where I want to be. I'm always going to be evolving, but I wouldn't change a thing, man. Life is good.
So Aaron, what I heard you say, besides life is good, which I love. Yeah.
Sure.
What I heard you say is that, as a sales person, as an entrepreneur, that what you learned in your journey was that you had to be passionate, and you had to believe in the product that you're serving, that you're selling rather. Is that
Yep. It's everything, man. It's everything. Yeah. I mean, who cares how much money you can make selling a product if you don't believe in it? I mean, I'm not one of those people. I don't know if that's Jewish guilt or what, but if I don't believe in what I'm selling, I don't feel right, you know?
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about some of because you said, hey, it's been, it's had some pitfalls. It's some setbacks. So tell us a little bit more about that. Tell us about one setback that you've had along your journey.
Sure. Was never good with timing, man. I decided to jump into, building profit share through KW, and not to go too much into that, but, this one of the great things about KW is they reward the agents that help grow the company. And, I had just gotten back from family reunion. It was the first time I ever heard Gary Keller speak. And, that was actually the catalyst for everything. Once I saw Gary speak, I realized, okay, we got Steve Jobs running this company, and he's driven by a big why. That's bigger than taking market share. That's something I can get behind. But he said something that really stuck with me. He said, many of the leaders of this industry 5 years from now, they're not in the business yet. And, I was never a mega agent. I didn't hang out with real estate agents. I didn't go to real estate, functions. I didn't really feel comfortable trying to recruit people face to face. So I kind of took that line from Gary and I kind of made it my mission statement. And, there was a guy in my office at the time that was a big internet lead generator, way ahead of the curve with real estate. And I said, man, I'm going to do what you're doing, but I'm going to do it on the internet. And I'm going to go after new agents. So I launched a website. I started running job ads. I was, started blogging, and, I broke all the recruiting records at Keller Williams from 2005 through 2010. The problem was my timing was crap. The market decided to shift in 2007. And, imagine coming up with this lottery ticket moment, building wealth through profit share with predominantly brand new agents, and you bring them all in 05, 06, 07, 08. So when the market hit the fan, and I got out of my fetal position in the corner screaming, why? There's another great quote from Gary that's kept me going. And he said, look, the greatest shift of wealth and opportunity are in down cycles, not up cycles. And, look, man, I could share with you all the stories, but, you stop selling real estate and you jump into profit share with both feet, and then you go all in and the market shifts. It wasn't pretty for a couple of years, but you know what? Failure was not an option. And I just kept fighting, and I kept fighting and lead generating. And look, I lost a lot of people I sponsored at KW. They dropped out of the business. They went to cheaper places to be agents. But, some of the people I sponsored at KW that survived the shift, you'll see them on stage at family reunion, and mega camp. So it's been a real journey. And for me, keeping the faith, believing in what I was doing without sometimes seeing the financial results was the biggest challenge for, an ADD guy who is immediate gratification based and who is used to putting effort into something and getting paid. So it's been a real test of patience. And, look, Dan, you and I go way back. I'm an emotional guy. It's my passion for Keller Williams that has always inspired me. And, another way I've been failing forward is learning how to play the game better. Sometimes, the way you say something and the tone of it is just as powerful as the message itself. And, being right sometimes isn't good enough. You got to learn how to operate in the game that you're playing. I think the biggest shift for me has been, I've been learning to play the game better. I've realized that I'm a leader in this company, whether I like it or not. And you know what? Ever since I made that shift, so many opportunities have opened themselves up to me. And obviously, I teach a lot around Keller Williams. And, one of my favorite sayings about KW, Dan, it's not about what you get. It's about who you become. I make more money than I've ever made teaching a class around Keller Williams that, by the way, I developed and that I promote on my own. And in many ways, in spite of, people telling me I couldn't do it. And I think that's what makes this company so amazing is that just because somebody hasn't done it doesn't mean you can't do it. But the key is you got to do it with the right integrity. And that's what I'm most proud about, is that I always did it the right way. And, I know my late father would have been proud, the way I handled myself through the shift and some of the challenging times that I think a lot of people would turn to scarcity, during that time. So I can always say I did it the right way. I didn't always say the right things, maybe, but I've learned.
Yeah. I wish that we could all say we always said the right things, right?
Let's think about social media, man. You can't take it back,
Yeah, and I had that same pain. I started real estate sales in 2007, so my timing was impeccable as well.
Right.
So a couple things before we move on. You mentioned two things there. I want to make sure that if for some non-KW people, tell us what is Mega Camp and what is Family Reunion, because you mentioned those. I just want to make sure.
So we do two huge training events a year. One's Mega Camp, always in Austin, Texas, where our corporate headquarters are, and one's moves around from city to city. I think Family Reunion, which was in February, was bigger than the NAR conference. We had about 17,000 KW associates in New Orleans, and it's a training event. And then you get to see the most innovative mind in the history of this industry get up and talk to you about, why he's doing what he's doing to save you from an industry that's trying to eliminate you. That gets you fired up,
Yeah, there's been so many changes since you and I've been in the business, and the technology, the big data, the commoditization. I mean, all those things, and I've been grateful to be able to listen to Gary as well during those events. So Aaron, tell me a little bit more about Aaron. So what brings you joy?
What brings me joy? Dan, I'm a little bit different than probably some of your past guests. I know you've had people like Adam Hergenrother on here, who's running triathlons and has Adam who? Yeah, right, exactly. I'm kind of
I didn't say that, Adam. Sorry.
No, I'm a little bit different. I'm not one of those people that needs to work to be happy. Okay, I don't need to work to live a fulfilled life. Right? I mean, there are things that I'm passionate about, like saving animals and living in the Caribbean and traveling, the things that give me a lot of fulfillment, So for me, what gives me joy is making enough passive income that I can do whatever I want. And, it's not about the money, it's about the good the money can do. And look, I get a lot of fulfillment, going around teaching people and coaching people. I'm just saying I do that because I need to fund the life I want. So for me, the idea of not having to do anything and deciding what I want to do purely on the idea of doing it, that gives me joy. And, profit share is about to update, man, today, probably at some point. And, it's when I see that number, that's what gives me joy. But I also, from a real standpoint, look, my big why, Dan, is, me and my wife bought a 5-acre piece of land in the Caribbean on a little island off of Puerto Rico called Culebra. In first quarter of next year, we're going to start building our dream house. And when my profit share pops, I'm moving there full time. And our big why is we're going to save a bunch of animals. And we're going to build probably an animal sanctuary. And I'm going to will my profit share to that animal sanctuary. And, if I'm waking up every morning and working on that, and walking on the beach and swimming with sea turtles and not having to, by the way, do 150 flights a year and stay in 85, 90 Hampton Inns and Hilton Garden Inns. And, that would be pretty cool. Then I could just teach and coach because, that's what I want to do, not because I need to fund the life that I want. You know what I mean? So I'm a little bit different in the sense that once I'm making enough money, I don't need to work to live a fulfilled life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and also it also sounds to me like what you're said maybe a different way. It's about creating choices.
Absolutely, and unplugging from the matrix, man. I mean, it's hard to. I mean, how many people have the opportunity to really craft a true life by design, right? Yeah. And that's really the idea. It's not about work, not work. It's about choices, like you said. I want to be the master of my own destiny, So that's what excites me. And that's, I think, the beautiful thing about a company like KW is that there's so many different paths you can take. I just decided to create a new one.
Got it. So what do you fear? What are you afraid of?
I mean, that's changed over the years. I mean, one, I'm a neurotic Jew, so I fear everything. Okay, I mean, I fear dying. I fear climate change. I fear a lot of things that are going on in this world. But for many years, to be honest with you, Dan, I feared. I don't know if it was a combination of a fear of success and a fear of failure. I mean, look, I come from a family of PhDs. My father, my mother, my brother all have PhDs. I was the entrepreneur with potential. And, for many years, I think that I quantified my perception of success based on how much money I was making. And I wasn't making a lot of money. So I wasn't happy for many years. And I think one of the cool things about where I'm at now is that I've given myself permission to say that I'm successful, even though I'm not making the money that I think would have traditionally have made me think that I was as successful as I would be. So ultimately, my biggest fear is that what I've been putting into this for the last 15 years is not going to be what I think it's going to be. But, we're in an industry that's trying to eliminate real estate agents. So yeah. I'm kind of all in on it. So my biggest fear right now is that 95% of agents are still not going to realize that who they get into business with matters, and they're going to keep funding or supporting entities that are trying to eliminate them as a profession, because I'm all in on the agents just like Gary Keller is. And so my fear is agents are not going to understand it in time, and next thing you know, they're going to wake up and be a door opener for $75, a showing. And so that's my fear. I'm all in on this because that will dictate my life by design moving forward.
What do you see as the biggest obstacle, the biggest thing that is a danger for the real estate agent in the business today?
I mean, like I said, man, 95% of agents are just waiting, for the phone to ring, or they're trying to get their next commission check. They don't care about buying leads from Zillow. They don't care about joining a publicly traded company that's in the business of, answering to Wall Street. They don't understand that a shareholder doesn't care about their role in the industry, right? A shareholder cares about the stock price. So ultimately, I think, and look, it's always been the challenge of the real estate industry, is a lack of education. I mean, the standards to be a real estate agent are so low, that's the biggest challenge. Is that now the good news is I think we're going to see a real thinning of the herd. The transactional agent is not going to be able to survive in this new market, this new industry. So what we hopefully will see, what will happen is that the agents that are training based, that are knowledge based, that operate with integrity, that run their businesses like businesses, or like business owners, they're going to thrive, and they're going to raise the bar for what it means to be a real estate agent. And the truth is, the ones that don't, they ain't going to be in the business much longer. So that's the challenge: is that will the consumer experience keep up with that evolution, or are they just going to say, screw the agent, I'm just going to go with tech because I'm sick of dealing with agents that don't provide value,
So it's all about, being value provided,
right,
centered,
right,
as an agent, and being education based and learning based, and providing a huge level of value of service. Is that, those are the ones that are going to succeed and thrive and sustain?
Yeah, Dan, and look, let's get real. The one thing you're guaranteed in a real estate career is a job. Everybody can be a real estate agent. I mean, right? And, there's a reason they don't teach you how to be successful in real estate school, because it's a big business getting people licensed, right? So if everybody succeeded, there wouldn't be any room to license new agents. So it's kind of like a conveyor belt, business model, which is, we're not going to teach you how to be successful because we want to keep the revolving door going and keep licensing new people. So for me, I'd like to see the standards be raised, and the value has to raise. And by the way, that's why I love what you're doing, Dan, because, at Keller Williams, one of the things that I talk about in my class is that, whether they know it or not, Dan, agents at other companies are stakeholders in Keller Williams too, right? I mean, we are the company that is trying to put the agent at the center of the transaction, right? Most of our competition wants their company to be the Netflix of real estate. What Keller Williams wants to do is we want to make the agent Netflix, right? We want the agent to be at the center of the transaction. So just like what you're doing, look, the reason we act abundantly, the reason I'm on here sharing with you is by raising the standards and helping all agents provide more value, the better chance we all have to beat technology that's backed by Wall Street, right?
Got it. So now you made a business originally, and I know that it's transformed a little bit, maybe, but of new agents. So if you're a new agent today, this day, and you're considering to enter into the marketplace or into the sales profession, real estate sales, what advice would you have to that individual?
Well, first of all, welcome to the lead generation business, right? I mean, let's get real. You could be the greatest agent in the world with the biggest heart, and you love watching HGTV, and you're just passionate about real estate. But if you ain't generating business on a consistent level, you ain't going to make it, all right? So, look, it's the 80-20 rule, Dan. 20% of agents will always make 80% of the commission. And, when I was doing this during the shift, there was a stat I saw from NAR during the shift. It said, look, 1 out of 10 brand new licensees are in the business 1 year later. 3 years later during the shift, 1 out of 100 of those agents was still in the business, right? So do you think the one that made it chose the cheapest place to be a real estate agent? You think the one that made it cared more about the commission splits they had or the training and support they were getting? So I think the big thing that people need to understand is you're starting a business. Who you get into business with matters. This ain't about your next commission check. It's about where do you want to be 3 to 5 years from now, and what are you willing to do to get there? So, look, everybody watches HGTV. They think it's great. They want to be a real estate agent, but they all come into the business thinking that somehow leads are falling out of the sky. Right?
Or they don't even consider that piece of, oh, wait, where's my business going to come from? They just think it.
Right.
Yeah,
they don't teach lead generation strategy in licensing school, do they?
Unless if you take Dan Roshan's licensing school, right? But that's just a free plug since you set me up there. But
Well, here's the idea. So look, basically, I start every conversation I've ever had with every recruit. I ask them, tell me your big why, right? Why do you want to be a real estate agent? What are you trying to achieve? And it's the same thing with the seller, Dan. When we ask the seller what their big why is, they all say the same thing. I want more money in my pocket with the least amount of hassles and the least amount of time. Well, when you ask an agent or a new agent what their big why is, I'll tell you what, after 5,000 conversations, I will tell you they all say the same thing. They want a better quality of life for them and their family, okay? They want more money. They want more time. Some of them just got laid off. They want control. Some of them make great money, but they spend all their time traveling away from their family. They want flexibility, blah, blah, blah. Here's the deal. Everybody wants a better quality of life for them and their family. And when I can get a recruit to tell me that, here's what my response is. You ain't going to get any of that in a real estate career till you take ownership of generating your own leads, okay? In a real estate career, quality of life happens at lead generation, okay? And let's get real, Dan. There's kind of only 2 kinds of agents in this business. Agents that generate leads and agents that work for the agents that generate leads, right? And which one of those agents has the kind of quality of life you think that they said they wanted? Now, obviously, teams are a big deal these days. You can be on a team and be an entrepreneur, and that's how we train our teams, is that, but we're not looking to hire dependent agents on the teams, right? We're looking to hire independent agents that want to be that want to be interdependent, and that can, even though they're not the owner of the team, they're an intrapreneur, right? But the truth is, our top teams are not looking to hire agents that just want leads, right?
No, not at all.
No, they want agents that they can replace themselves with, right? That's called leverage, right?
Yeah, they're looking for competitive, learning-based, assertive, relationship-based, training, or team players and self-starters. Those are the characteristics that the top teams are looking for to partner.
And I want to make a point, Dan. I'm not in the business of selling people on Keller Williams, okay?
Sure.
And I'm definitely not in the business of selling people on a real estate career, okay? What I'm doing is I'm looking for people that value what we value, right? Mm-hmm. And ultimately, my mindset will always be, I want to have a conversation with people that I wish somebody had had with me, all right? I talk leads, listings, leverage. I try to explain to them how real estate companies are different. And what happens, Dan, is this, I tether myself to the process, not the result. Okay. I get fulfillment out of helping people make the best decision for themselves. If it's Keller Williams, that's awesome. If it's not, I still win because I enjoyed having a conversation with you that I wish somebody had had with me. I was in the business for 3 years before I had any idea what the heck was going on. Okay. And so that's what motivates me. And I would assume that all these agents that are listening on this call today, that's the way they run their real estate businesses, right? They're not in the business of selling houses. They're in the business of helping people. And sometimes the best decision for a client is to not do the deal. And that's how you create advocates and wealth determiners, is by caring more about what's best for them than what's best for you. And I think that's kind of how I've always operated. And it's not about being in business with everybody that needs what you offer. It's about being in business with the people that value what you value, right?
What type of commonalities do you see in the successful agents? And when I say successful, I mean the ones that are living a life by design, because that could be successful, could be 12 transactions a year, 5,000 transactions a year. It's about creating that life worth living. So what do you see as commonalities?
Their why is big enough, right? I mean, what do we say at Keller Williams, Dan? When your why is big enough, the how presents itself, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, look at my life, man. I was 31, 32, very talented, but never really gave it 110% until I found my why. And that's when everything took off. So look, your why changes over time. Sure. I got married. My why changed. My wife's like, hey, honey, crossing your fingers on the 21st of the month ain't working for me. Start selling some houses, figure out another way to make money. So she kicked me out of my comfort zone to build this class. Now, all of a sudden, I make more money, a lot more money teaching than I ever did than I make in profit share. So once again, I think that's why, I'm a big Simon Sinek fan. And if anybody in this call does not know who Simon Sinek, I cannot encourage you enough to watch an 18-minute TED Talk video called The Golden Circle. All right. Simon Sinek has written several books. One's called Start With Why. One's called Find Your Why. But what I always try to do, Dan, is I try to identify their why and then show them how they can achieve it, whether it be at Keller Williams or another company. And the great thing about asking people what their why is, Dan, is now I have something to hold them accountable to. Okay. So when someone says, I want to build a better quality of life for me and my family, I want to spend more time with my kids, I want to leave a legacy for them. But then they say, well, what kind of leads do you give me and what does it cost? Well, we have a disconnect here. Okay. Sure. So for me, it starts with their why. And then I'm trying to determine if that why is a fit for our why. But it starts there. If they're not motivated enough, if they say, well, I'm looking for a company where, I want to make money, or, I want this or that, or, to me, that's not big enough. That's not going to be big enough to make you successful in an industry that is so hard to be successful in. You got to be driven by something bigger than money. The money is a product of a bigger why. So, and like you said, Dan, it's the willingness to follow successful models, right? Yeah. It's a willingness to time block for lead gen. It's a willingness to fail forward, to hear 100 no's, to hear that one yes. It's all of that stuff. But if you're not driven by a bigger purpose, I think that's the most determining factor for success.
What's the name of the class that you teach?
It's called the KW Effect, right behind me. Hashtag the KW Effect. There you go.
Well, it's right in front of my face.
I know. Right? It's all good, Dan. It's all good. I think I taught in your market center maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah, she did teach there about 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so, and it was a great class. Thank you. So, if you're an agent watching this, we do these every single week. So tune in on any Thursday. If you're local in Virginia, Maryland, or DC, I'd love to have a conversation with you about your career, how we may be able to help you. You can always get me, Dan, at greetingsvirginia.com. And we do have opportunities for the competitive people who are looking for a great culture. So, Aaron, how can somebody, if you're a market center owner or a team leader, how can they get in touch with you to book the KW Effect?
I mean, first of all, if you don't know who I am or how to get in touch with me, I don't know what rock you've been hiding under. But if you're within Keller Williams, obviously I manage a very powerful Facebook group on obviously on Facebook. It's the KW Proprietary Mastermind. We have 35,000 KW associates in it. Anybody else wants to find me, type Aaron Kaufman into Google. I'm not the guy from Gas Monkey with the crazy beard. I'm the other Aaron Kaufman. But yeah, I mean, just type. I mean, you know, I've spent 15 years putting my name out there. You'd probably find me if you were looking for me. All right.
So Aaron has a name and Dan has the beard.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I really appreciate you. Thanks so much for joining us today. And if I can ever help you, let me know.
All right, buddy. Take care, man.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.